So I actually received an email for someone who I assume watches my YouTube channel. He goes by the name of Daryl Chong. So he basically asked me a question and I was actually going to reply him straight away via email. But then I realized, this kind of situation will probably be pretty common with a lot of people who want to buy a gaming PC or just thinking of upgrading a certain component, but then maybe you're not too knowledgeable or you're not too sure. So I thought instead of answering him via email, I thought, yeah, let's do a video. And if there are enough people asking this, different questions, maybe I'll make this a series, I don't know, we'll see. But anyway, yeah, so here is the email that he sent. So he says, "Hi, first of all, I'm happy we have our own SG Tech Review on YouTube. I hope you'll make more videos and have a growing subscription base. I just bought a Prism Plus W270 V2 QHD monitor." And he goes on to name the specs, which I'll just put it up here. And then he says, "I need some advice on getting my next graphics card to complement my new Prism Plus monitor." All right, and then he asks, should I get a 1060, a 1660, or RTX 2060? And then he says, "I hope you can shed some light on this. My monitor will be arriving on the 17th of March. So I'm filming this on the 18th, so this was yesterday. Thank you and have a great day. Stay safe and healthy." Well, Daryl, stay safe and healthy too. Well, first of all, thank you so much for watching my videos. Thank you so much for the kind words. Now, he says that we have our own SG Tech reviewer on YouTube. Actually, there are quite a few SG Tech reviewers, not a whole lot, but there are a few that I've seen. Obviously, my great buddy, and I've worked with him a couple of times. This is Tic-Tac-Stow, so Kai from Tic-Tac-Stow. And then there's also Real Meltan that I came across on YouTube. And he's got pretty cool videos as well. He doesn't really upload like a heck of a lot, but when he does upload videos, they're quite informative. And of course, you have, I think, one of the most popular, which is S-Geek. They have some pretty nice videos as well. So, so there are quite a few local, when I say local, I mean Singapore. Yeah, do check them out. And if you haven't heard of them, I'll put a link to their channels in the video description below, all right? So yeah, so regarding the question now, it's not going to be that straightforward a question. Another reason why I didn't want to just send an email. I think it's better to explain this over a video so that this will be easier for me. And there is quite a bit of information, so I'll try and summarize it a bit. Now, it's a really great thing that he's asking what graphics card should you pair with your monitor, and that's a very good question. And looking at his graphics card, this current one, so it's an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 570. Dude, I'm assuming you bought this quite some time ago. This came out 2010, 2011, I think. So it's pretty much almost 10 years old. So yeah, you definitely need an upgrade. Your CPU, on the other hand, is an i7-8700. You didn't specify whether it was a K or not, so I'm assuming it's not overclockable. That's a pretty good CPU, man. I'm not quite sure what you do. Maybe you do a lot of productivity work, I'm not sure. Before I talk about which graphics card to get, your choice, the W270. So that has I have a few concerns if that is your choice, if let's say you're only going to play games. That monitor, and it's a good monitor, it's got a very good IPS panel, although I haven't actually tested that out here at the channel. But from what I've seen, and I've actually had some time to play around with it in their showroom and some expos and all that, it looks like a pretty good monitor. However, the refresh rate of it is only 75 Hz. And it, to my knowledge, it does not have FreeSync. And I did some research before I started filming, and I couldn't see anything on Prism Plus tech sheet about FreeSync or anything like that. It just says 75 Hz, so I don't think it has FreeSync. This monitor, I'm not quite sure how much I paid for it, but I think it goes at about $329. If you were buying this solely for gaming, I think it would have been better to maybe pay a bit more and get the F270i, which I did review. That has 144 Hz, or if you get this, the other one, which is 165 Hz, that's about 400 plus, 450, 460, I think. A lot of people were thinking, why don't you just buy whatever, just buy whatever you can afford and chuck it in there. It's not so simple. If you're going to spend a lot of money on buying a graphics card, of course you want to make sure that the graphics card that you buy is used to its full potential. Now, what am I talking about? What I'm talking about really is bottlenecking. Okay, so what is a bottleneck? So basically, it's in this particular case, I'm talking about a bottleneck between your graphics card and your CPU. Okay. Now, if you buy a really cheap CPU, so like for example, if you cheap out on the CPU and then you buy a really expensive GPU, you would actually bottleneck your speeds and your GPU would not be used to its full potential. Okay, and vice versa. So if you buy a cheap GPU and you have a really good CPU, the graphics card also, or your performance in games will also not be at its full potential because the graphics card is not really that good. So the question here really is, how do I know which one to buy? Do I just ask someone at the shop, or do I ask friends, or I go on Yahoo Answers? Yeah, you can do all that, of course. If you are a tech savvy guy and you have some knowledge, then great, you can probably research that, and what you find online might be pretty good. But for me personally, and a lot of people ask me the same question, and what I always recommend, there is this website online called PC Builds, and that website is absolutely fantastic. All right, there are all sorts of information there. You even have a bottleneck calculator. Okay, so how does that work? Basically, you enter in your CPU, you enter in your graphics card or your GPU. All right, enter in how much RAM you have. Now, when I say the RAM, I'm talking about your system RAM. I'm not talking about the RAM that is built into your GPU. Okay, so you enter this tree, and then it will actually show you whether it's being bottlenecked at all. Like for example, if you put an i3, Intel i3 something, and then you put a RTX 2080 Ti, it is definitely gonna bottleneck. And they will give you in a percentage form, like what's the bottleneck. Same if you buy, like for example, an i7 or i9 or even an AMD Threadripper or whatever, and then you buy a RTX 2060, then yeah, it's also bottleneck. Now, when it comes to RAM, the system RAM, you specify here that you have 16 gigabytes of RAM. However, you didn't mention like whether it's a DDR4, DDR5, or whether it's or the speed as well. I'm not quite sure what the speed is. I hope that you have a good RAM. 16 gigabytes, I would say, is the absolute minimum. Okay, a lot of people will say, oh, 8 gigabytes of RAM is fine, or Windows 10. Well, yes and no. I mean, if you use your laptop or your PC for just surfing, doing a bit of work, then 8 gigabytes you can probably get away with it. If you do a lot of productivity stuff like Premiere Pro or Photoshop or whatever, if you're a designer, or if you play a lot of games, I would recommend 16 gigabytes. Oh, and when I say I recommend, I mean minimum. So minimum 16. I think the sweet spot is about 32 gigabytes. Okay, so for Daryl's question, what graphics card should you buy? Really, basically, because you've got a really good CPU, you can go and check this out on PC Builds yourself. And by the way, I'll put a link to that website in the description below so you can try it out yourself. But basically, you can go all the way to an RTX 20 Ti and only have about a 5% bottleneck. So because you've got a really good CPU, so you don't have to worry too much about what graphics card you can buy without creating a bottleneck, because like I said, yeah, you've got a really good CPU. So I think it really boils down to budget. You didn't specify what your budget was in the email. However, in your email, you did ask me, do I buy like a 1060 or a 1660 or a RTX 2060? So with that, I already kind of have an idea of your budget in mind. Definitely don't get a GTX 1060. Right now, it is not worth the money. You can get that for about $300-400-ish brand new. But a 1660 is around that price as well. And then the RTX 2060 is about $500-600 if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe a bit less, I'm not sure. But you have a bit of a predicament now. Now your monitor, the W270i, that's not a full HD monitor, and I'm sure you're aware of that. That's an Ultra HD monitor, so it's a 2K screen, or 1440p, goes by many names. So yeah, so this puts quite a bit of strain on your graphics card. So think about 2K as 4 times the resolution of Full HD. Some people get the idea when they say 2K, or the thing is, oh, it's just double the resolution of Full HD. No, it is 4 times the resolution of Full HD. So you can imagine how much more processing power is needed compared to just Full HD gaming. Now, what I would recommend is either a 1660 Ti, if that's the budget range. I wouldn't recommend an RTX 2060. Yeah, it's got good performance. However, at that price point and that processing power, I just don't see the point of ray tracing, especially at 1440p or at 2K, turning on ray tracing is going to drop your frame rate significantly. Just my opinion. And by the way, you also didn't specify what kind of games you play, or whether you're even gaming at all. But yeah, I would assume that you're gaming. But yeah, so there are some other websites you can use as well. So there's GPUCheck, I think that's the name. Basically, you can like Google and search like, oh, this particular game with this graphics card, or this particular game at this resolution, and it has benchmarks for you to look at. So like when I checked the 1660 Ti on like Shadow the Tomb Raider, that it very good for full HD. It was so-so at 2K. So if your budget is say around 400 or maybe 600 or 700 max, then yeah, maybe you can get the RTX 2060, but just don't use ray tracing, or you can try it out. But I have the RTX 2080, and sometimes when I play, I actually find out, I actually realize I actually turn ray tracing off because it doesn't give that much of an improvement that I'm gonna go like, wow, you know. So and like sometimes if I play like Battlefield 5, and I turn it off, it almost doubles my frame rate. So I don't really see the point of ray tracing, at least not right now. So the last thing, the W270i, like I mentioned, doesn't have FreeSync. Some people will tell you, oh, you can just turn VSync on in games, and yes, that definitely does help if you don't have FreeSync or NVIDIA G-Sync. However, the VSync that is built into games, or even your the normal VSync, which is vertical sync by the way, that also drops your frame rate quite a fair bit in my experience, and it also causes stuttering. So the VSync was actually made to prevent tearing, but it does cause a bit of stutter, especially when you have a lot of variable, like things moving very quickly. I realize there's quite a bit of stutter in your normal VSync, which is probably why NVIDIA came up with G-Sync and AMD came up with FreeSync. So basically, you've already bought the monitor, and I'm sure you're not going to regret it. It's a really good panel, good color reproduction. If you're a designer or photographer or something to do with productivity, you're definitely not going to regret it. So the question about graphics card again. So for me personally, I would go with either a GTX 1660 Ti or a RTX 2060, maybe more. You can go all the way to a 2080 Ti, and you won't get a bottleneck because you've got a really good CPU. So Daryl, I hope that answers your question. And any of you guys, if you have any questions that you want to ask me, I'm not going to pretend to know everything. But yeah, feel free to drop me an email. Daryl found my email, but I'll put it in the link below as well if you want to drop me an email. And if I get a lot of questions, I'll make a series out of this. If you have general questions like Daryl, a really good question about what graphics card to buy, or any of this sort of questions, doesn't have to be with computers as well, mobile phones or anything tech related, please feel free to send me an email, and I'll be happy to answer them as best as I can. Alright, so this about wraps up my first episode of what I am calling Technobabble Answers, and hopefully I get to do a few more. If you like this video, you know what to do, and I would love it if you will subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to receive notifications on our next video. I'm JP, and I'll see you real soon.